Hi, Dr. Ruth Anderson here with Enlightened World Network. I am so excited to be here for Author's Corner with Stephen Altair and Kevin Schoeninger. And I'm so excited because I am holding their newest book, Raising Our Vibration. Holy cow, you guys. All I can say is, holy cow, is there anything you didn't put in here?
Well, I think it's pretty comprehensive for what it's about, about the process of subtle energy meditation. And we really wanted it to be a comprehensive guide that someone who was either completely new to this or an advanced practitioner could pick up and really have a step-by-step introduction to this whole process of subtle energy meditation and meditation in general. I think that Stephen and I have summarized some of the key steps to make any style of meditation highly effective.
And I do think that we had the very able assistance of many meditators in helping us to look at this, because each time that we went through our group, so from the wonderful core group that we started off with to our second group and so on, the people that we had through, we asked them to look really closely at this and give us suggestions and say what worked and say what didn't. So I think there was also a refining process that has a whole body of people behind it that helped create the refinements and the clear processes. So it's almost like it's both a manual that's very open, but it's been tested. And I think that's one of the advantages, is it's by meditators for meditators. And that makes it something really, really different. It feels like it's a collective work in that sense. Sure, Kevin and I wrote it, but there's a very collective consciousness behind it. Because I do think on our planet at the moment, that's what we most need, is the we in consciousness, the we consciousness of us all realizing that whatever we're doing is in unity, and whatever we're doing is a collaborative project towards freedom and liberation and love and light and peace. So that it feels like that. So I really want to honor all the people that have put their minds and hearts into what goes down on the written page. And I'm not just talking about the visible world either, but the invisible world, the world of the collective consciousness that encompasses all the bodhisattvas, elders and archangels, all the great beings and masters and ascended masters that have given Kevin and I and all the people that have contributed to this guidance over many, many lifetimes.
Exactly.
And we includes these great traditions that subtle energy meditation comes from, because Stephen and I didn't make this stuff, just conjure this up. It's something that we have studied over the course of several decades individually with many different teachers in these powerful traditions of Qigong and Kriya Yoga and centering prayer, and just on, the Buddhist tradition. So it's something that is bringing together some core principles and core practices that have been tried and tested over, millennia, and that Stephen and I just happen to have parallel paths for decades of studying and practicing and teaching these things. And then we were so fortunate that one day you, Ruth, said, "Hey, Kevin, I have this person in Tokyo you have to meet." And I said, "Okay." And you were right. So that was Stephen.
So Ruth, you are definitely part of that whole collective family. You've been such an integral part in us and this work being created. So thank you. We're indebted to you deeply.
Well, my honor, truly my honor. So you both bring a lifetime of study to this art of bringing this book together. So Kevin, you are the author of Clear, Quiet Mind, 4 Simple Steps to Deep Inner Peace. And Stephen, you're the author of A Diary of a Yogi, a Book of Awakening. Now, how was this different writing together than when you each wrote on your own?
you want me to start, Stephen?
Yeah. We play this tag team match, Ruth, that we've done over the course of our time together, where we both pause and then I usually say, "Go tag, Kevin, you're on." Yeah. No, you start, Kevin. I'm always happy to do it that way. So.
Yeah. So I think while our practices we found were remarkably similar for never having met, and both having practiced for over 3 decades, we got together and compared notes and compared practices and guided each other and found, wow, we are doing such similar practices. That's what kind of got us going on defining these 7 steps of the practice. And because we found we are doing the same 7 steps, even though we've grown this practice independently with Stephen in Japan and me in the United States. And at the same time, then we also bring complementary perspectives and complementary language. I have tended to have a language from Qigong and very much mind-body, experientially based language. And Stephen has a more heart-based and very poetic language that he brings to the process. And so we've tried to kind of weave that together and find this balance in which it's the end product is so much more than what either of us could write alone, because it's so much more fuller and more comprehensive, having those 2 styles come together.
Yeah, it's lucky for me, Kevin can understand my poetry. I do think the complementary styles are kind of perfect to the point where I think writing, you asked, how is it different? Well, writing by myself for Diary of a Yogi, it was definitely that poetic diary kind of formative writing, and very much not just a stream of consciousness, but I was in a personal experience that I was relating to the reader. When Kevin and I wrote this was not so personal, even though it did have elements of it that we wove into it. So Diary of a Yogi's experiences contributed from that point of view, but it was also very much, again, going back to the collective, it was about an experience that everybody can have. And I think one of the unique things that happens when you write with somebody is you notice various things, well, first of all, you notice your intention. You get that together, aligned, and that was incredible. Like, we really, because of our, as Kevin mentioned, our previous practices, we were so aligned. I mean, our intention was simply one and the same. You couldn't find a little crack where that was saying, oh, there's this slight thing over here that you both haven't looked at. We really were so aligned in that simple intention. So once then, it's kind of like meditation. You make an intention, then you go into a state of immersion where you're immersed in that meditation. And it was like that for the book, to write together. We then became totally immersed in the process, to the point where we kind of found we were writing each other's things. Kevin would write something and I'd been writing exactly the same kind of material about consciousness or a particular perspective or a view of it, so we could weave that together. So I think that immersion factor, when you're really there, I mean, that's what I love about writing. And again, like meditation, where you need to surrender and let go at a certain point, we let go of the ownership of the work. And it's no longer Kevin and I writing, which was what was I was alluding to in terms of that this is a greater collective consciousness writing, and not just our own material, but from the visible world, but also from the invisible world. Is that there are certain times Kevin and I received messages, we'd both go into meditation together on a particular day, and we'd receive identical messages from source. I mean, it was a really profound experience. And then Kevin say, oh, look, this is kind of what I think at this point in the transcendental process. And I'd say, but that's exactly what I experienced this morning. So the value of being able to do that together and kind of check in and having revealed from source identical points of reference, I think is a treasure. I just can't describe. I sort of run out of words at a certain point, because there were definitely those wordless, nameless, timeless moments, just like in meditation, that occurred in the writing, where we thought, wow, that's just perfect. And where really does it come from? You start to realize you no longer own the work, that it's really consciousness that owns the work, and it's consciousness that's flowing, because you get into that kind of state. So I know Kevin wrote, he might have kind of views of how his Clear Quiet Mind book brought different perspectives into this. But from Diary of a Yogi, certainly that poetic perspective and that ability to tune into the invisible world beyond this one was really, really of great help. And when I found Kevin doing the same thing at identical moments, that's just like a real aha point in the writing.
Yeah, and that over the whole year that we wrote this, year plus, I would say there was rarely a day and we would exchange emails and meditation graphs on a daily basis over the course of writing this. There was rarely a day where we didn't exchange emails, and sometimes they would even cross paths at the same time, and we would be writing the exact same thing to each other on a daily basis and talking about how our meditation experience that morning and what we were writing about. And we had pretty much the same experience. And so it really was a shared consciousness in this writing. And as Stephen was saying, it's more than that, more than just he and I sharing a consciousness. It was consciousness itself, or even the practice itself that was writing this book. That there's this practice of subtle energy meditation that was guiding us and writing this book. And it was an amazing process to witness, as almost as if we were just dictating what we were each individually hearing and then feeding it back to each other and saying, yes, exactly.
And I do think another, very curious point on all this is that at the time that we were writing, we were using what's called a Muse headset to record our meditations. And over the time, one thing Kevin and I have noticed of great similarity was the actual arc and look and feel and pattern of our brainwaves. So what Kevin's saying about, us achieving that unique identical perspective was also being borne out in our brainwaves. So, in hindsight, you could say we could have actually recorded the process through our brainwaves and watched this simultaneous merging of the same patterns of the brainwaves. So we used a piece of software called Mind Monitor. So it's mentioned in the book. And, to those of you to Muse Company, we, a wonderful shout out of congratulations, and to Mind Monitor, because both those pieces of technology working together were able to inadvertently track our own process of writing. So if people said, oh yeah, but you're just saying, you're experiencing these, whatever it happens to be, high in the heavenly halls of source, abilities. Well, actually the brain waves showed, for example, these high tracking gamma brainwaves that and at roughly the same amplitudes and peaks at the same point in time as we were having the meditation. So we used to chuckle a lot. We'd look at these graphs and say, yep, okay, so you were really and you'd point to a point of the graph, I know exactly where you were right there. So it's a really, what a miracle. I mean, I think we're on this earth at a point of really miraculous insight into the ways that our consciousness does manifest. And we're able to look at it in a variety of different ways, and also fairly objectively, scientifically in terms of neuroscience, and say, which is a lot of the content in the book is connected with that, because it's so important that we can say, look, this is not just happening in our inner felt experience, but we're also experiencing this objectively on some using measuring apparatus to find out what exactly is happening. So that synchronicity, when it happens, it's a real aha. You feel the felt experience, you share it in an email, it crosses in synchronicity, and your brainwaves show the same pattern.
Yeah. And I just today, I sent Stephen an article that is this study about neuronal synchronization between people. And they're showing how the EEG synchronizes not just across an individual brain, but when two brains are in sync and relating to each other, that the brain waves synchronize between the two people as well. So again, it's kind of this cutting edge where science is kind of catching up with ancient spiritual technology, and it's blending together and mutually supporting each other. And that's an exciting thing to be a part of as well.
Well, and you guys do such a beautiful job of describing that in here, but it's also written in such a beautiful way that those folks that aren't really into the science of meditation can glean so much from it. This is really an amazing book because it brings so many different pieces about meditation into it. Not only the science, which will validate it for some folks that need that kind of validation, it's got the heart in it. It's got so many exercises and tips and checklists and coaching questions. This could be a lifetime study here if you really took each of those suggestions, each of those questions, each of those checklists, and really dove into it. This could take you years to really experience everything that's in here. It's an amazing accomplishment, really.
Thank you. Well, it's also we kind of feel like it's the foundation for many different ways to work with people as well. So it's the foundation for this 10-week meditation course that we lead now. And it's the foundation for the meditation app, which delivers the meditations right on your phone. And so we're trying to make this very accessible and very easy for people to do the practice, because that's really what it's about, is not just having an intellectual understanding of what this process is, but to engage in the practice so that it does have a transforming of consciousness, and that's in the practice itself. So that's our goal, is to be able to share this as practice as widely as possible, make it as accessible as possible, and really make it something that people can understand and follow and systematically progress into, so that the end goal is to shift our state of consciousness. So we live in an elevated state of consciousness and experience these deep frequencies of peace and love and light and inspiration, and have that be where we're coming from, where we're living from. So ultimately, that's the point of meditation, and that's the point of what we're doing, is to try to share that and help people to know that there are other states of consciousness besides the stress and anxiety and fear and doubt that is so pervasive in our global civilization right now, that underneath all that, there is an abiding peace and an abiding love and light that we can tune into. And by tuning into it daily, that starts to become where we reside, where our consciousness lives. And from that consciousness, we think differently, we feel differently, we're inspired with compassionate actions, we have a different relationship with who we are and what's possible.
Yeah, I do think that sense of, like, if in terms of reaching out, if you really want to reach out to people, one of the simplest ways of doing it is to tell 10 people about the practice, and then get them strongly enough sourced and grounded with a foundation in the practice that they know how to pass that on to other people. These actually were not my words, but the Dalai Lama's words. When I met him many years ago, I sponsored one of his first trip to New Zealand. And as a result, I met him. personally in a private audience. And he said to me, Stephen, he said, one of the things I asked him, look, I'm on this path of compassionate awareness, and I want to, and I was very young at the time. I was in my early 20s. I just started a company, and he said, look, what you're doing, if you can reach out to 10 people, have a strong enough grounding, so have studied compassionate awareness enough so that you really know what, and you're living that, you really know it and you live it, then you can tell 10 people and tell them to tell 10 others and tell them to tell 10 others. And I've always kept those words very close at heart, because I've met him continuously over quite a number of years and taken a lot of, just tremendously profound instruction from the Dalai Lama. And in terms of the practice that Kevin and I are doing, we're really hoping now to attract teachers to this work that would want to go through with us and become the 10 people that tell the other 10 people that then tell the next 10 people. Because I do think, once you, as Kevin was saying, when you've got this really strong, abiding foundation of inner peace and inner light and inner love, and you really, really want that in your life, for your family, for your loved ones, and for your community. Because if you look at what's happened recently, with this whole pandemic, we've been asked to go into, our houses and stay local. And I really think it's a quite a profound message for humanity is, really respect your local community, respect the 10 people that you do have that kind of intimate connection with, that you'd be able to pass on these inner foundations of light, or, abiding light, love, and peace. So we're just at that point now. So it's a lovely time for you to be interviewing us about the book. We're just at that point now where our core group that worked with us all that time ago in the very beginning, some of the members have indicated an interest in, becoming teachers of this work. And I think that the value of having the processes that are so clearly outlined in Raising Our Vibration in the book, if you read it, you can see that there's a very, very clear process that you take people through to give them the kind of grounding they need. No matter what religion, faith, or tradition you come from, you can apply these principles. And it doesn't mean that you don't go on to study under this master or do this thing or that thing, but you go with a set of principles that are really ground in ancient traditions and in our own, Kevin, my own practices, and in the practices and feedback that have been this collective work of all the different practitioners we've had involved. So if you're listening to this and you really are interested in teaching this kind of work to people, I really would encourage you to read the book and see if it aligns with you, and see if that inner light, love, and peace is something that you would like to touch and bring, even if it's just to bring to your family and teach them that, or even if it's to bring to your local community. Because I think there's so much advantage in us saying we don't just need to reach out to the world, but we need to look at our local communities and say, there is so much we can do there. So that to me, when the Dalai Lama gave me that message all those years ago, I mean, it was on now going towards nearly 30 odd years ago, is that it really struck home to me how really beautifully profound kindness and caring can be on that very intimate and local level, and how important that's been to Kevin and I in setting up a small group of people. We deal with fairly small, intimate groups of people each time we do the course, to help people really get a direct experience of that underlying, that abiding light, love, and peace. So anyway, I'm really, I'm grateful to you for the opportunity, but I'm grateful to anybody else who takes up this opportunity and really wants to share that kind of experience with their families and with their communities. Because I think that's where the real hub of what this new, awakened, enlightened world is all about. We need to start close at home, and we need to start with each other, and start with our neighbors, and start with our local community. The advantage of the internet, of course, is that we can do what we're doing now and reach out virtually. But there's such a tremendous power in us transforming our local communities and really sparking that underlying, abiding light, love, and peace right throughout our neighborhoods.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Now, the title of this is Raising Our Vibration, a guide to subtle energy meditation. But I have to tell you, there is so much more in this book than just about meditation. There's so many ways in there just to raise your vibration. So I don't want folks to think that this is really only about meditation, because it isn't. So I have a question for you both. What is your favorite method of raising your vibration outside of meditation?
Well, it begins with starting the day with that meditative practice. So it's grounded in the practice. I think Stephen and I have both practiced this for so long that it's just become our dominant state of being, to be in this sort of meditative state. And so the practice really from the morning just carries through the day. And it's just really a state of consciousness that you rest in. So it's with the way that I see it is that it becomes like the background state that you live from. So it's always present with you, and can easily be refreshed just by, personally for me, by feeling the space inside and around me as open, clear, and spacious. I'd say that's kind of my practice throughout the day, is just to hold this open space of awareness and just welcome and pay attention to what comes into this space. So it's a practice of presence, of paying attention, and this holding this infinite space of awareness, and then just noticing what comes through the space and what life wants to do here right now, and follow that. What does life want to do here right now? Because it's not up to me. There's something happening here that is life living through a certain perspective, and just paying attention to that, and following what life is asking for from this place right here.
Nice. Stephen, what about you?
Well, mine is very simple. I'm actually going to do it with you, because it's better that you actually experience what I'm experiencing rather than I just tell you. So one thing Kevin and I talk and teach a lot about is a point, a path, and a field. And I'm going to do this from my own state of compassionate, loving awareness, and get you to do it too. So it's very simple. I'll get you to do it with your eyes open. You settle your feet on the floor. You rest your hands in your lap. You make sure your spine is straight and that it feels like there's a string pulling you up towards the ceiling. And all you're going to do to begin with is you're going to be aware of a corner of your room, the right corner of your room. So you're aware right now, and you can look at it. And you're going to be aware of where you are aware from. Are you looking at the corner of the room from a space inside your head, or perhaps a space inside your heart? And then you're going to draw a line. So you're going to feel this. It's almost as if there's a subtle energy pulling your consciousness out of that point of awareness into the point of the room. It's like Shakti or prana or chi is alive in that line. And then that line, you're now going to imagine or feel that your consciousness goes out to that corner of the room, so that you're looking back at yourself and everything's very still. So your body is completely still. And as you look back at yourself, you realize there is this vast, spacious awareness that's all around you, and that you are non-local. You've suddenly dropped out of yourself just for a moment. Thought has stopped just for a moment. And what fills that space is not only spacious awareness, but underneath is a vibrancy, like a light or a love that fills that emptiness. It's like fullness and emptiness all in one moment. So that kind of experience, you can come back into yourself, back to your normal point of awareness. But that's simple, moving from point to path to field with awareness and vibrancy and love. Something happens when you, for example, if you're listening to me now, and again, I ask a question, where are you aware from? And if you find that you're aware, oh, I'm listening with my head, try for a moment. Imagine that you condense that point of reference into a bubble, and you let that beautiful bubble go down your throat as you're listening and into your heart. And then you listen to me from your heart, from a heart of open awareness, from a heart of compassionate, loving awareness. Something different happens, right? Your hearing slows and your pace drops and your breathing starts to align with this slower pattern of your brain. And something happens in the heart and the mind, they synchronize. You realize that the heart is actually informing the brain just by this simple act, and your breath grows longer and your exhalation grows longer and the vagus nerve becomes stimulated. And suddenly you're in this deep state of peace and you're really listening. Whereas before you might have had all these busy thoughts, but suddenly everything's slowed down, and the heart and mind that are coherent bring about deep peace. So what Kevin was talking about, this deep, abiding peace, is suddenly right here and now. And you realize it's never been separate from you. It's never been apart from you. That it's right here and right now. It's like a miracle of transformation in your own being, purely from you being aware of your awareness. Where is my awareness now? So if you check again, is it still in your heart? Is it in your third eye? Is it in your crown? Is it above the crown? Is it all around you? Is it within you and all around you? So those kinds of simple practices, and that was really a touching point, path, and field with the awareness, with a loving awareness, a compassionate awareness. Because I think we find as we do that, we realize that we can extend out compassion and awareness, not just to the corner of the room, but to our loved ones. So right when you're listening to me, you could actually connect in your heart right now with Ruth, or with a friend, with a mum that's sick, with a neighbor that needs some help, with a friend far afield that you haven't seen, that you're worried about. You can send those beams and rays of compassion, loving awareness to that person, and they'll receive them. There have been a lot of studies done on distance healing, on Reiki and other disciplines, where they've showed that they've done EEG measurements of the brains of the people that are receiving this kind of energy and awareness. And we know from quantum physics that we're not separate from the field. We're actually immersed in it all the time. It's just that we tend to see the 1% of it. We don't see the whole entire universe when we look at the night sky. We just see that little glimpse that we're gazing at in that particular moment. But when you tune into, as Kevin did, that 99% that remains of that spacious awareness, pure field of consciousness, then the infinite potentials in that field are right there at your call. Because really you need to make that intention to touch that field. You need to make the intention to want to be immersed in the field every day, every moment. So actually, as I was speaking to you about that, there was a bright blue light, which I do get occasionally, which is like a truthometer, and generally it indicates the presence of Archangel Michael. And that's potentially probably because of you, Ruth, and also because of Kevin, because all three of us have had, over our time together, have had this wonderful instruction and connection with that angelic presence, or that consciousness that is beyond us, that is, that guides us all the time. So I'm also deeply grateful to you for that connection, because that connection with the angels and with Divine Mother has been part of me since birth, since my own mom and my godmother, who gave me such beautiful instruction, that those kind of Carmelite traditions. So all of this, Kevin and I bring, and all of this I'd say you bring as well, because you've been very much part of this creation. So thank you.
Oh, Jay, So, you know, I just so love listening to both of you. You are what you talk about. I know both of you in your personal lives, this is you. And I think that's so genuine. And those things that I love about you, I want other people to know and love about you as well. And I know that if folks go to your Facebook pages, they will hear meditations and get to see the work that you're doing. And I want people to reach out and do that. And I cannot wait to see where you all go. So excited about an app with you all doing meditations on it, because both of you are so fabulous in your meditations. And I want other people to be able to hear that. So I'm so glad you're doing that. As I was reading this, I was thinking, especially when I got to the back part where it's got meditations, I thought, I just want to hear Stephen's voice reading this. So I'm so excited that you're doing that. So how can folks contact you if they want to know more about you? We know you can buy this book on Amazon, and I've provided the link for that. But if they want to know more about you, what's the best way to learn?
The two easiest ways are, one is our webpage is raisingourvibration.net. And on there you can find out more information about the book and the app and the 10-week course, which will be starting in July 11th. So we just today opened up registration for a new group for that. And we only take a small group because we want it to be really personal and interactive and really in-depth. So raisingourvibration.net is a place to find out about that. And also on Facebook, we have a Facebook community, Raising Our Vibration Community on Facebook. And there we're developing a community where we're sharing resources and meditations and inspiration to just remind us all on a daily basis that there's so much more than this world of our five senses, right? There's the world of our five senses is less than 1% of the vast world of consciousness that's accessible as we learn to tune in inside and get in touch with what's available through inner sensing, and then through subtle energy, and then going deeper and going beyond. So, yeah.
I think
we
Kevin,
get to a wordless point, which Stephen and I often get to, where we just start feeling it, and then we're just like, yeah, that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I do. I agree with Kevin. There's been a number of times, whenever we do the guide, you mentioned the meditations, and it's something Kevin and I we do live them. I feel like I'm living in my meditations or Kevin's meditations or source meditations all the time. There is sometimes days that go by and I'm still in that same kind of spacious awareness, that same kind of loving awareness, that same deep compassionate awareness that we've been speaking about here. So where you can find, Kevin has given all direct ways of finding us. I do also encourage you to go into the invisible world within you and contact us. You might find you get messages from source that just come purely by you reading the book, and like us, you'll turn into something that's really important for your message or for your life or for your community. I think that's the real value of having such a collective work. So it doesn't matter whether you're looking at your states of consciousness, or the book takes you on this process through understanding your states of consciousness, moving into interoception and turning inwards, and then into mindfulness where you're a curious observer, and then deep through the 7 subtle steps, or the 7 steps of subtle energy meditation. And from there, it takes people into how to really transcend and then return, ground, reflect, develop insight, and be of service. And the reason that I'm mentioning those is that at any point on your journey in the book, because it is a journey, it was a journey for Kevin and I, and it'll be a journey for you as you read it, at any point, you might find that by meditating on the book, you also contact the same consciousness that we're all part of, the same we consciousness that Kevin and I tapped into to write the book, and the same we consciousness that you have access to, because it's no different. The consciousness in you is the same as the consciousness in me, same as the consciousness in Kevin, the same as the consciousness in Ruth, and the same as the consciousness in all the gurus that we've derived this work from. And I think that's the tremendous value of taking time over a book. So they're like this, because there are lots of different ways that you can contact that kind of awareness and contact us and contact your own intrinsic or true or natural state, your own natural effortless state. So I think the value is really, really taking time and going deep into each section of it. I often used to take books like this and I'd meditate on just a sentence or a paragraph, because as Kevin said, you know, when you go deep within a work, and especially a collective work, you touch things that are common to all of us. And there is a wordless state. There is a point at which the words you're using to describe something or to try and translate your experience just no longer suffice. And that's where the felt experience becomes so important to understanding what's happening for us individually and collectively and in our worlds. So that when you move past the words, you really do touch a transcendent state. And that's why the book is called Subtle Energy Meditation, because you do move from this state of your normal waking, ordinary moment to moment experience, and then into a subtle energy meditation state where you do actually feel, oh, there's this entire other world that I'm really not present with that often. And then that subtle energy awakens you to this deeper, awakened, vaster sense of I, or vaster transcendent self. And then you start to actually merge with your experience. You drop out that I, you drop out everything, and you understand why the sages spoke about a union, you know, why we talk about yoga, which means union, why we spoke in ancient times about alchemy, which also means union, and why there is this simultaneous merging once the I, the little I that's created all this narrative and story and concept and ideas and beliefs, when it drops out completely, then as Kevin said, you touch the greater than 99% of the rest of experience that up till then you haven't been aware of, because it's been cordoned off, or it's been there's been this boundary you set around yourself, which is made up of all your ideas and concepts and beliefs. So when you let that go, and it can be pretty frightening at certain times, you let it go and you think, but what's out there? When I let go of who I think I am, what actually happens? And that's when you find this tremendous transcendent way of being, this, as Kevin said, the abiding inner peace, light and love actually comes to the fore. You allow it to arise within you. So there is such, you know, when you're talking about contacting us, you're really talking about contacting that inner abiding light, love and peace that is there and is transcendent and is a real experience that you can have every day, moment to moment, and whether you're waking, sleeping, dreaming, or eating your breakfast. So thank you really for the opportunity to share all this beauty with you. There seems to be beauty in everything today, in our words, in our breathing, and the air around us, and your beautiful smiling faces.
I'm so glad you all are here, and I'm so pleased to be bringing your book forward, Raising Our Vibration, available on Amazon. Please check it out. Check out Kevin and Stephen on Facebook. There is a whole world out there. If this is new information to you, there's a whole world out there. You have no idea what you're missing. So we'll say goodbye for now. Thank you. God bless everybody. Take good care.
God bless you too, Ruth. God bless everybody. Thank you.
Thank you all for watching.